Short book review on this book, which is called Nutrient Power, Heal Your Biochemistry and Heal Your Brain by Dr William Walsh. I believe Dr Walsh is no longer with us, but there are lots of Walsh practitioners across the world. There are some in the UK, and this book has different kind of chapters covering different kind of conditions, including schizophrenia, depression, autism, behavioural disorders, and ADHD. It also talks about Alzheimer's disease. So it's a bit of a kind of slightly different book. It's not just specifically about autism or ADHD, it does cover those kind of other things. However, those other conditions, for example, depression, can be quite common in individuals with neurodiversity. So it's definitely kind of worth a read. It's quite a detailed book, shall we say, in terms of chemistry, and you can kind of like pick and mix. You don't have to read it all in one sitting. You can go to the chapter. So chapter 7 is specifically about autism, and it covers kind of genetics, epigenetics and environment, the onset of autism, and then the next section is kind of covering the history of autism between 1945 and 1975. It then goes on to discuss some of the symptoms and traits, including socialisation, language, behaviour and cognition, things that are commonly kind of, affected in individuals with autism, and then looking at the differential diagnosis. And then the next chapter goes on to consider, or the next section should I say, the autistic regression event. And that might be some individuals who their child, for example, was developing normally and kind of like in line with the schedule, and then kind of whether it's overnight or over the course of days or weeks, the child appears to regress in terms of language and cognition and ability. And so it kind of covers a little bit of that as well. So there is another section on findings concerning brain structure. So there's probably more recently been done more imaging and scans with regards to differences with autism and ADHD as well, looking at the different kind of like imaging compared to a neurotypical brain as well. So there's a section looking at high frequency health problems in autism. There's a lot of positive traits with autism, but there's a lot of kind of common comorbidities that can certainly make it more difficult for an individual with autism, whether it's with cognition or whether it's with mood as well. And some of the abnormal biochemistry, so this chap studied hundreds and thousands of individuals and found that there was kind of common traits, including zinc deficiency, copper overload, B6 deficiency and elevated toxic metals. He also looked at like oxidative stress as well. So the chapter on autism is very detailed, looking at behavioural therapy, brain inflammation, some of the kind of like issues with some common medication that I think used to be given out more so, but maybe not now. And then it kind of looks at bringing it all together. So it's a really detailed book. This book in itself, with regards to what's called the Pyrroles protocol, he discusses Pyrroles in more detail in the book. But we started specific supplementation for our youngest son earlier on this year. And within a few weeks, we'd say it definitely made a big difference. He was much calmer, much more able to focus than he had been previously. So I would definitely kind of recommend this book. I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10. Some of the information's a little bit outdated because he wrote it quite a while ago, but a lot of it's still very relevant, and it's just a pity that it hasn't made it more mainstream.